5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. All right. All right. We are live. Looks like the stream is up. We'll go ahead and plug this into the Discord so people can join in, and then we'll go ahead and clap in. Thank you for those that were just waiting to join and have joined us already. It's very, very nice of you. All right. All right. Cool. So the Discord is informed. I'm feeling good. You feeling good?
Bro, always.
All right. Cool. We'll clap in.
One sec. Sorry, let me just get my nose up.
All right. Ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. We'll clap in. All right. 3, 2, 1. It's fine. Whatever. If it was on point or not on point, it's gonna be okay. All right. Ready when you are to start, man.
All right. Anything I should know about you? Anything you want to come clean about now?
Nope. I think I'm good.
All right. Ho ho ho. Hey everyone, it's Matt,
And this is Lucas,
and this is Thanks for Playing,
the podcast breaking down the most iconic video games the world has to offer. Oh my god, that was really good. Stop! It's so loud. How are you louder? You backed away. You were really loud. I was like preparing too.
I get an email to do that, asking me to do that weekly, so I have to.
Yeah. They're actually asking you to do that.
Yeah.
Forgot. Man, how's it going?
It's good, man. It's good. We just got done doing an exciting recording of on the Steam Deck. Very passionate. I can tell you and I are both getting heated and annoyed with one another. And that episode will actually release after this episode the following week of that'll be June, July, August by then, I think. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, things are going by fast.
And you and I both had a long weekend, I know, and it's hot. Heat's picking up.
The heat is picking up.
I'm probably actually no, I'm not dehydrated. I'm always hydrated, Lucas. You know that. I do have a slight headache though because my room is very hot, and I've already been recording in here yelling for an hour. And I'm ready to have a good time though.
All right.
I know you are too.
I
can
am.
see it in your eyes. You
I
got that sparkle I love.
I know those of you that clicked on the pod episode on Spotify or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. You clicked on this episode, and I hope you are as excited as I am to dive into this video game. I have been wanting to do this forever. This is like one of the Mount Rushmores of gaming for many, many people, one of them being myself. Matt, who has never played Chrono Trigger, or has zero nostalgia for it because he never was around really gaming during that era. Me, who has a ton of nostalgia for it, on top of wanting to understand this game from a modern perspective. There's just so much to get into. I'm predicting this being a long episode. I have a feeling we're going to yell at each other a lot.
I don't know about that.
Don't take it personally if I'm mad at you for hating this game.
Give a little. Let me get. I'm not. I like this game better than I like Super Metroid.
Okay. I didn't want this to turn into Super Metroid.
Yeah, no. This will be a much more. I'll be much more kinder in that regard.
Awesome.
Everyone. That is right, as Lucas has mentioned. Today, we are talking about the #1 time traveling simulator, Chrono Trigger. Cue the sweet music. Lucas, what a game.
What a game. So before we dive in, we're going to dive in. We're going to deep dive in, really. We're sad to say that our producer, Sam, could not be on this episode. He very, very much wanted to be on this episode, so it's tough that he's not here. He did record some sound bites that he wanted me to play, which I'll play at the right time, probably near the end. I'm excited for that. So he is going to give his opinion on this episode. It actually is one of his favorite games, and he's here. He's not here for a very good reason. Producer Sam, want to give a big congratulations. He's out in Europe
Did a sick job.
doing an on-site editing job. Huge congrats to him. So for the thanks for playing audience out there, just know our producers out there doing big things, and that's why he couldn't be on this
He
week's episode.
is. And really quickly, before we dive any further into the episode and on the game that is Chrono Trigger, really quickly, if you don't hate us, shoot us a follow on Twitter, Instagram, TFP Podcast, as well as TikTok. I actually changed our TikTok name recently, and that's right. We got your email, Zoomers, and we listened. We are back on TikTok, actively posting again. So you can follow us on both Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at TFP Podcasts. That's TFP Podcasts with an S at the end. As well, if you have any questions, shoot us an email at thanksforplayingpod@gmail.com. And really quickly, I gave this a shout out in our Left 4 Dead episode, and I want to give it a shout out in one more game episode too, because it was such a well written review of the podcast. And I want to incentivize you all to, maybe leave a review on Apple Podcasts because hey, we like hearing from you, whether that's a review or an email. And maybe if you reach out, maybe you'll end up on the podcast in some capacity, like this man is about
Perhaps.
to. So this is a 5-star review, may I say, by a Apple Podcast user by the name of Slightly Pissed Guy. Title of the interview is "Read Me." Yes, sir. I think it'd be cool to get an episode since I enjoy these so much. Really excellent analysis of the games without feeling too stuffy. Good banter and chemistry between the host and a great game selection. Something we pride ourselves on, Slightly Pissed Guy, is our game selection. This is my first gaming-oriented podcast, and I'm glad to be getting in before it blows up. Slightly Pissed Guy, thank you for the kind words.
Thank you.
We are grateful to have you listening, as well as to all the other listeners. We really appreciate your support. The podcast is it's like, bro, it's a movie. We're really excited about the direction we're going with things, and we're hoping to keep pushing it. Now, Chrono Trigger, why we're all here. Lucas, before we dive into this, why don't you give us a brief synopsis of the game? So maybe if someone hasn't played this, they have at least a general idea of what's going on here.
Of course. Chrono Trigger. Wow, what a video game. 1995 JRPG of legendary status. You know it by name if you haven't played it. If you have played it, you know what I'm talking about. Chrono Trigger. Plot goes a little something like this. Follows the story of main character Chrono and his many friends throughout time. The rebellious princess Marl or Marley, we're not really quite sure how it's pronounced. Chrono's brainiac best friend Luca, a talking humanoid frog from the Middle Ages named Frog, a self-aware robot from the post-apocalyptic future named Robo, and a prehistoric sort of animal-like woman named Ayla. After accidentally discovering time travel, Chrono and his friends are sent on a huge journey to stop the world from ending in an apocalyptic event in 1999, an event where a giant monster comes out of the ground and rains destruction upon the Earth. After attempts to circumvent the disaster to go back in time, eventually the friends learn that the beast's name is Lavos. And he came to the planet in the form of a meteorite in 65 million BC. Yes, Lavos was the asteroid that destroyed the dinosaurs. Is actually the implication in the game, which is kind of funny. It is then revealed that an ancient civilization in the year 1200 BC attempted to use Lavos' power to attain immortality, but was then destroyed by Lavos himself. Numerous key characters are revealed to come from this ancient civilization era, including one of the nemesis in the game, Magus. Eventually, the crew fights Lavos in the year 1995 after enlisting the help of all of the friends from all sorts of times and acquiring a time machine called the Wings of Time. Only after attaining all of the most powerful items you can in the game are you prepared to fight Lavos and defeat him when he emerges from the ground on the apocalyptic day in 1999. Chrono Trigger, it just real quick, 9 out of 10 Nintendo Power, 9 out of 10 Game Informer, A on Electronic Gaming Monthly, 92% on Metacritic, and 9.5 from IGN, which, good job, IGN. You did it. 9.5. They were above the Metacritic.
One.
They were above Metacritic on this one, which is
Rare.
really, really great. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot going for this game. It's got a really kick-ass plot. It's all over the place, all over throughout time. And it's, man, I know we're gonna dive into so much stuff, but just so excited. I'm so excited right now.
It's well. Let me give you my first impressions. Holy Akira Toriyama. So I myself, I'm a pretty big. I mean, I think I've made it pretty clear on this podcast. I'm a pretty big fan of anime in general,
Yeah.
and like many of us, I think growing up, mid 20-year-olds growing up, one of my favorite shows to watch growing up was Dragon Ball, um, and Dragon Ball Z, and even now, honestly, by extension, I've watched like Dragon Ball Super. I've kept up with that just because of my love of this series. And oh my god, every single one of these characters, Lucas,
Is a Dragon Ball
they
character.
all look like Dragon Ball. Luca is just a brunette Bulma with
Yep.
glasses. Magus is just like one of the Supreme Kais, and
Chrono is
fucking
Goku. Chrono's
Chrono. Chrono has Goku's hair and Future Trunks' face, which I
Yes.
think he did on purpose because Future Trunks has a
Has
sword.
a sword. I know.
So,
but
and so
but
does,
Chrono
so does
Chrono
Chrono.
Chrono was created before Future Trunks was created though, no?
Probably not in the manga.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Sorry.
Yeah,
That's right.
I would think. I'm not sure.
I'm gonna dive into how this, how this game may or may not have influenced like the anime, like the Americanization, with like American obsession with anime down the line. But sorry, continue with your initial thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I I was kind of like not excited to play this game.
Wow.
Just because I I'm a new age game. I like new games. I like things that feel fresh, things that feel new, that are fluid and fun and are like kind of fast paced action. I like cool set pieces. I like good cinematics. Um, I mean, I fucking gave Cyberpunk an 8. I almost stand by that.
God,
Um,
it hurts every time you say
yeah,
that.
every time I say that. But I found myself surprisingly engaged with the game. I think it has slow to start, but a pretty solid story all around with some fun twists and some kind of like dark stuff. Um, like mature themes, I guess you could say. You could probably dig into those a little bit better than I can. I think it's the combat, while obviously like simple, I think it's very fun actually. And once you like kind of get maybe like halfway through the game, I think the combat improves drastically in terms of the depth of it, and great music. So
Yes.
it ticked off a lot of my like very basic level boxes for games.
Great music is an understatement
Yeah.
for me. I have been wanting, again, like I said, I've been wanting to do this episode for so long. Most like my first memories of video games really do come from Chrono Trigger. Um, Now, like I said, Sam, our producer, was originally going to be on this episode, and we would have talked all about how me and him played it when we were very, very young. For those of you that don't know, Sam is my brother, which is why he has preferential treatment being the producer for this show. And he rented this game so many times from our local video store just to beat it. He just kept renting it and kept renting it, and he must have been 10 or 11 years old, and I was 4 or 5, and I just sat and watched him play it. And for those of you that kind of grew up in the era where you just watch your sibling play like an old game, it was really great to watch this one fly by for sure. I I didn't beat this game myself until I was around maybe 14 when I was in high school. I gave it a proper playthrough. And the thing is that if you're a little bit of an older school gamer, I know that Matt and I are very similar in age, but I tended to stay more in like the Super Nintendo kind of 90s era of gaming
Lucas's
and
first system. What was your first system?
an SNES.
Yeah, my like first system that I really played was like a Game Boy Advanced a little bit, followed by a PlayStation 2.
Yeah, so very very
Yeah.
different from me. Where like I had the SNES, 64, GameCube, um, S Advance, SP, DS. I mean, I had all the regular stuff that you had too, but I also I played PlayStation 1 quite a bit. Played a lot of SNES, of course. But for those of you that kind of were around during this era, Chrono Trigger is interesting in that even if you're playing it all these years later, you're doing your second playthrough, your third playthrough. Let's say you listen to this episode and you become inspired to play this game again. It's been so a part of the culture and like the Mount Rushmore of gaming, like I said, that you still remember characters, you still remember some plot points, and you remember who Lavos was, and you remember what Chrono looked like. That the game and it doesn't feel like it ever really left your head in a sense. And for me, I don't even remember a time when I didn't know what this game was. That's how old and like etched into my mind it is. So like the when did it click, the spoilers, like everything, it almost doesn't even apply to me because I just it's in my like this game is in my head and in my heart. That's how I feel about it.
It's part of
It
you,
just
right?
is. It just is.
It just
Yeah.
is.
It's not. Yeah. It just is. Exactly. And that I guess that's what I got for initial thoughts. I know I'm fanboying over here, but you know, playing it this time around, I found a lot to still really be excited about. I you know I don't accept the nostalgia argument on this one. I mean I feel very nostalgic about this game, obviously, because it's very closely tied to my childhood, but. I played this game now. I think it's great. I think it has like modern game design elements. I think it has like really great. Like, I don't. I we definitely can't knock it for its graphical capabilities for back in the day, but what it is actually doing from like cinematic levels, pacing, story, beats, like it is doing everything great. It's doing it all in a modern way. It's got twists. Some major characters die. I mean, it's got regular good story beats in it that like you would expect in like
It's
a
very good
modern
story
regular
beats.
story. Yeah,
Yeah.
really, really good stuff, and it feels like a big adventure. And again, like I know we'll touch on it, but the gameplay is has depth. It's not too convoluted. It's just so good. So much of it is so good.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
You done?
I'm not done yet. I mean, there's gonna be more. I mean, I'm done with initial thoughts. I don't want to take up too much of the time on the initial thoughts. I do want to touch on a little bit of the. I want to touch on the making of Chrono Trigger for this episode. I did quite a bit of research on some of that. Um, and we're gonna dive into game design and sound design, all the regular stuff on this episode. But I want to start by talking about the Dream Team. Did you come across the Dream Team, Matt, when you were doing any bit
I
of
did
research here?
not know.
So the Dream Team is comprised of three men who created Chrono Trigger. Okay,
Okay.
back in the '90s, three men from Japan, Japanese titans of industry, you might say, took a trip to the United States to learn and do some demos on computer graphics capabilities that American companies were doing at the time. Okay, probably going over to Microsoft and seeing what Microsoft was doing. The story is a little convoluted there. The three men were Horinobu Sakaguchi, the creator of Final Fantasy. That's who that is. Yuji Horii, the creator of Dragon Quest, and Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball. So you have the creator.
Cool.
So you have the creator of Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, and Dragon Ball on the same plane going to America, right?
Like the big three.
And the big three. And honestly, if you're going to have three people from the '90s making your JRPG, it's going to have to be those three,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So these three go and they're going over to America basically on business to go get some computer graphics demos. And they start talking about a game that they might want to make. They start brainstorming and they just come up with the concept of they want to do something that's never been done before. Okay, so they get together, they start brainstorming. I don't believe Akira Toriyama was obviously not working for SquareSoft at the time, but he came in as a consultant, sort of a informal art director, doing character designs, coming up with overall concepts and looks and vibes for set pieces and
Yes.
things like that, and basically created all of the concept art for Chrono Trigger and handed it off to the team to really play with, to really bring to life in sprite form, in 16-bit era form, or 16-bit form. And, you know, the thing is that this all came at a really great time because this is the end of the life cycle for the Super Nintendo, which meant they got to squeeze all the technical capabilities out of the Super Nintendo. They got to really, really take everything that the console can do just because everything had already been done so far. People had figured out how to program on it, make memory as efficient as possible on the console. Obviously, memory being a huge limitation back then. And they were able to actually squeeze everything out of the Super Nintendo and make Chrono Trigger. The idea it actually started off as there's actually two conflicting pieces of information. They say that it started off as its own standalone series and was going to go off and do its own thing, but some claim that it actually started off as a spin-off for the Mana series or Secret of Mana. But it was codenamed Maru Island under some sources that I found. And eventually the time travel idea came about. They actually had like it was like a 50 to 60 person team throughout its development cycle, and they would have all 50 or 60 people in one room talking ideas like when they would brainstorm.
That
So it
sounds
was a
so hectic.
very so insane. It's a very overwhelming development cycle and creative brainstorm session, as you can imagine. It wasn't like three guys at the very top kind of making all the decisions. They really did do a lot of things as a team, and obviously caused a lot of tension. But the ideas all emerged in a good way. I think it just speaks to the direction of the dream team, really kind of taking as many ideas as they could from everybody else and really informing the direction of the game. So that's the overall context of how Chrono Trigger came to life. A lot more to the story that I want to dive into in terms of the making of in regards to the sound design and a lot of the music. But really, it came down to the vision of three guys that kind of just wanted to do something really cool. And these guys are legends, seriously. I mean, they've informed in
Kind of like thanks for playing.
kind of like thanks for playing.
Yeah.
The creator, I mean, think about it. The creator of Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, and Dragon Ball all being on the same flight and coming to America and just like talking shit or
Just shooting the shit,
shooting
yeah.
the shit. It's like insane. I mean, these three people like basically created like the cultural like obsession of so much of American pop culture that would have come in the next 20, 30 years, right?
You
Like
gotta think there should have been a rule where like they're not all allowed to travel together like on the same plane, right?
it's
Like
too dangerous.
we can't
Yeah.
risk losing them all in one go.
Yeah, and like I mean I mean you love anime more than I do. I like anime I guess a little bit more than like an average person, I suppose. But I know you I mean you love it. You read manga, you're like always exploring new shows and stuff. So much of that is really like Dragon Ball, dude. Like
Yeah.
this like that was like the such a beginning of it in America. And I remember like that was back when it was like you were such a nerd for watching that sort of stuff. Like it
Right.
was just
Yeah.
it had to eventually break through, and I just like that guy was talking with the creator of Final Fantasy and the creator of Dragon Quest. It blows my mind that like those three guys were able to come together and do it. They end up informing so much of the culture that comes around in the next few years, so much gaming genres that come about because of their ideas, so many game designers that love and admire their work. Truly was a dream team for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, having that many, it's almost a miracle that like. What's even more impressive than the fact that they were, those two people came together is the fact that they were able to put out a creative product as well. Because I think what's interesting when you get three people that are that successful in their own rights. I mean, Dragon Ball had been around since '89, so Akira Toriyama was very successful. And I'm sorry, I'm already blanking on the names of the other two, but they both were obviously very successful in their own genres and their own,
Right.
both kind of the same genre, but their own games at that point. And you would think, like, when I hear those three like big names together, my fear would be, are they going to kind of put each other down, or is one person going to try and take control, or are they not going to be respectful of each other's ideas? But just like, nah, we're gonna get it done and make something
Yeah,
sick.
they
Um,
really managed to collaborate.
and I find that just so awesome. And I mean, yeah, I just can't get over the fact that Akira Toriyama was in this.
I
Every time I
know.
think about that, it blows. Like even the freaking opening, like or the cutscenes for the cinematics, like it all used sound design from Dragon Ball. Like
Yeah.
Lucas Blaster in the opening cutscene, or at least for the PC, it might be different on other ports, but it's literally like the sound if you shoot like a key or energy blast in Dragon Ball. It's
Yeah.
all identical. It was just it was very weird cognitive dissonance going on while I was playing.
I know. It's kind of funny playing it now, like knowing what we know and like the journey that Akira Toriyama has taken over so many years,
Oh yeah.
and Dragon Ball in general. I mean, I didn't know when I was a kid that it was the same character designer, and I was like, oh, go or Chrono looks familiar.
What?
Chron-
Goku's in my game.
yeah, yeah, exactly. um, yeah. Sorry, we got some categories to hit over here, so
Yeah.
we got to hit them. When did it click? When did this one click for you? I think I got to opt out of this one. This game has always existed in my head. So what about for you?
Yeah, yeah. So for me, really, when I started getting more used to the combat and understanding kind of like the ebbs and flow of the combat, Because at the beginning of the game in particular, the combat is very kind of cut and dry. Like you just attack, maybe use one or two attacks just kind of over and over. And there's not really any strategy to it. But then once in particular, like the first boss that I really noticed it on was I think the dragon tank and maybe some other ones close to around that point where there's very clear like, oh, you need to attack in this manner. You need to like use these kind of attacks against it because some things are more effective against it than they wouldn't be. And in particular, once magic gets introduced, because once magic is introduced, at that point, then you're also getting more enemies that are resistant to magic or they're resistant to physical attacks. So you need to use magic, and then just kind of understanding like the ebbs and flows of that, and being having to kind of experiment in battle and say, okay, I don't want to use an AoE attack right now because I don't want to hit this person with magic because it'll heal them, even if it'll do a bunch of damage to this other one. And there's also just so many unique, you know, kind of attacks. Like there's AoE attacks, there's attacks that where it just gets everyone in a close circle. And to give context to everyone, I think the way I would describe this, like the gameplay as far as the fights go, the way I don't know if this is the right term, the way I'm describing it is real-time turn-based.
Yeah, active battle is kind of what they
Active
call
battle.
it.
Okay,
Yeah,
active
combat,
battle. So yeah, it's like Pokemon in the sense where like you have kind of like commands to pick from, but it's all happening in real time, like an active battle, like Lucas said, where if you just don't pick your action in time or you don't scroll to heal your potion, you might get killed by the enemy you're fighting before you have the option to even heal yourself or choose your action. So you do actually have to kind of be more actively involved in that sense and engaged in the fight. And there's just so many. Yeah, once I started diving into the fighting and the battles again, that depth there, that's what really hooked me. Honestly, the story didn't really grab me till like 2/3 of the way through, just because I mean, I can kind of get into this more later, but the story itself is interesting. But as far as the driving forces of the characters, I just wasn't like really buying into it. And I think if I played this game when you first played it when you were younger, I probably would have had a much easier time. Like, we got to save the world, guys.
Yeah.
But now I'm just kind of like there's no driving force. They're just like, oh, we discovered time travel. I guess we're doing this now. Like it's
Yeah.
it's very just kind of a matter of fact. Like, well, I guess this is what I'm doing the next few days.
Yeah, I will agree with that part of it. I noticed that on this playthrough that the character motivations are a little wonky, just because time travel is the big factor. You don't ever really need to fight Lavos. Like
Yeah,
you don't
like,
technically need to do anything.
and the only character
Yeah,
that really has any proper vested interest in defeating Lavos on paper should be
Robo.
Robo, because I mean, you could even just like tell, you know, the people like, oh, like there's this giant thing underground, like you got 1,000 years, get ready. And I'm sure they could figure something out in 1,000 years, right? And but Robo's world obviously is already kind of devastated, so I mean, they have a much more vested interest in defeating Lavos. But I mean, there's literally 1,000 year, excuse me, 999 year separation between Chrono and Lucas timeline, which is like the most middle ground timeline, even, and then like versus when Lavos actually shows up. I mean, Layla, excuse me, not Layla, Ayla in particular has like no actual reason to be there.
Yeah, I agree.
But other than that, yeah, it's good.
It's just a bunch of friends fighting for their friends.
It's
What it
just
turns
friendship,
into.
man. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of friendship themes in it, which I always love friendship as a theme and stuff. I agree with you on the story. I think like there's a huge suspension of disbelief category or suspension of disbelief like kind of thing you have to have in your head with it.
Yeah.
In regards to the story, because like I will recognize that the Lavos as a villain comes about very, very quickly and in like a way that's like, oh, this is why the planet's destroyed. Lavos just kind of comes out, destroys everything in a video, and then like you guys just go, we'll stop him. And then that's like,
Yeah.
and then and then you're like, oh, okay,
I
like
guess we're doing this.
I guess we're doing this. Yeah, it's like it does kind of feel that way a little bit. There probably could have been a little bit more like build up or motivation, or so even like a little line of like, you know, the present is ripping apart, or like like these timelines are like
Yeah.
destroying something like that's happening right now, right now. There is urgency near the end when the black omen appears, like when the flying black, because that thing is like actually
Across
causing
timelines.
it's actually ripping up it's ripping space time apart in a way.
Right.
So that's kind of cool. But Lavos himself, yeah, you could have easily just not done anything at all. It's kind of funny there. Diving into game design, right? I want to get to that real quick. I want to get to that actually because that's like a good bulk of what I want to talk about here. I like you said, I think there's a lot of depth to the combat in the later stages of the game. I want to say like halfway through things start getting pretty interesting. Then near the end things are very interesting, and I like it because it's a subtle depth. No loadout, no singular loadout in the game is the best loadout. So for those of you that haven't played it, there's 7 characters total. You get to have 3 in your party. When you're fighting, you get to do combinations of dual techs and triple techs in order to use in combat. Plus, you have all the items that you could pick from, which everybody could use. But the dual techs and the triple techs all depend on who you have in your party. So if you have
Yes.
Frog and Chrono, you have something called X Strike. If you have Chrono and Luca, you have Fire Sword. If you have Robo and Ayla, you have a super cool one actually. I think it was called something Drop. There and then there's like heal ones, there's support ones, there's AoE damage, single target damage. There's a bunch of different things. Some do physical damage, some do magic damage. But no one loadout covers all bases. And that's what I think was really, really cool. I'm sure some nerds out there have number crunched this one and probably figured out what one has the best chance of winning, really.
But there's no
But
clear answer when you're just
there's
playing it normally.
exactly, which I think makes for really solid game design because like the true answer is kind of hidden behind a few like layers. It's not like, oh, here's this one stat, here's how this one stat affects this thing. It's like you basically have physical defense, magic defense, offense, and then magic, right? So physical offense and then magic. So and then you have AoEs and single target. So it's actually a very distilled. If you want to dive into the depths of like how the combat works, pretty distilled. It's pretty distilled, right? If somebody has a lot of magic armor, they're going to be fine if the magic attack hits them. But if a physical attack hits them, they will probably not be fine. And you can't really armor up anybody to the point where they can guard against both, like with the items that you have. So you have to kind of choose one or the other.
They can
Um,
choose, yeah.
yeah, and I thought that made things really interesting because, like, let's say I had Frog, Marl, Marley or Marl or Chrono, Frog, and Marley in my party, right? I have X Strike, which is a dual tech between Frog and Chrono that is physical based. So it means you can deal a lot of single target physical damage to somebody, but I don't have a really solid AoE magic attack except for Luminaire, which is Chrono's, or like Lightning 2, which is another one of Chrono's. And it creates like this weird dynamic because it's like, okay, well, if I attack the boss that heals from magic damage, Luminaire doesn't really do anything. Then again, Frog has an AoE heal. Then again, Marl has really good single target heal. It's like it becomes this kind of game where, you'll it's almost like the inklings of like in WoW you have like AoE healers, single target healers, AoE damage, single target damage, and everybody has their specialties and stuff. That's how this feels. Like it really
Well,
does.
it
It does
becomes
end up feeling like
you have to make a choice, right? And you know, kind of backtracking a little bit, I think this is a great example of agency in gaming where the player gets that
yeah,
unique choice to kind of shape their experience, not by having like certain story beats that they're making decisions on, but rather just how do you approach a fight? How are you going to use the game's mechanics to change your game experience? And yeah, I just thought the combat was so fun and rewarding, especially once you like were getting fucked up in a fight, but then you figured it out.
yeah, that
Like
was
there was
fun.
one I remember I was fighting a later boss where you're fighting 2 golems that basically mimic your attacks. And what I did was I had Luca and I had Chrono in my party. Chrono has like lightning based attacks, and then Luca has like fire
Fire.
based attacks. And in sequence, so I equipped Chrono and Luca both with fire resistant armor. And then in sequence, what I would do was I would have Chrono attack with his Luminaire, like his giant lightning AoE attack that does a bunch of damage. And then immediately after him, because her speed was fast enough, she would attack before the golems, and then she would do her fire AoE attack. And then because of that, both the golems are gonna just copy my
Flare. Yeah.
my fire attack, and I have fire resistant damage on. So I just have these two going back and forth. I have Frog in the middle healing us, and
Yeah.
we're just chilling.
Yeah.
And then it
That's
was
cool,
like,
right?
but the fight before that, before I started doing that combination, I just got destroyed by them, and I was like really overthinking it. Like, oh, I need to like, do I just focus all on one? Do I keep trying to get both? What I do? Then I was like, wait a minute, I can just like abuse their own power against them.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
little things like that were so fun to fight or figure out. And there's another one where you're on, I forget the boss's name. It's like when you go to the Death Mountain or the Death's Peak or something.
Yeah, yeah.
The final boss up there has like these two really annoying hands that regenerate, and I was having a lot of trouble
Oh, you're
killing
thinking of
them.
Mount Woe in
What?
the floating mountain on a chain. Yeah, yeah. That place
Yeah.
is cool.
I was having a lot of trouble with that boss. And I was using my main loadout I ran of characters. I usually had Frog, Luca, and Chrono. But I was like, this just doesn't work. I need to do something different. So then I admit I had to Google this one, but just like still implementing it was kind of fun. But then I subbed in Ayla for Luca, and I used like their horizontal attack, which it's not AoE, but it attacks everything that's on an equal plane, on an equal horizontal plane. And then with that, I was just very easily to do like 1,000 damage to these hands and like just take
Yeah.
out the boss no problem.
Yeah.
So just for the game to have that amount of depth was just really interesting, and to have so many different ways to fight a boss, and like I could probably grind and like eventually get lucky and get through the other way, like with my original party, but just knowing that there's other options out there
Yeah.
and making them um, fun to utilize and feel rewarding once you figure them out is super good gameplay mechanics.
Yeah, some stuff could not, like, you just couldn't fight with certain party
Yeah,
members, and some stuff you really needed to like swap things out. And like sometimes you would just go like, "Oh, this is a really hard boss." You'd swap up your party, and all of a sudden it was an easy boss, and you're like,
right.
"Oh, okay, hang
Yeah,
on, I get it now. I just
yeah,
needed an AOE. I needed an AOE heal on Frog. I needed a bunch of single target physical damage with Chronos, so I'm just gonna spam this one attack and
yeah.
heal him, and it works, you
And
know."
on the topic of the just the combat in general too, I I really do love the active based battle system that they utilize. Especially, I really love how seamless it is when you enter a battle, because versus something like I'm gonna use
It's
Pokemon as
not
an
random.
example a lot. It's not
Yeah.
random. I'm gonna keep using Pokemon as an example a lot because it's like one of the main turn-based games I've played. But in Pokemon, you go, you're wandering through grass, and you get this random encounter. You have even if you're on an SSD, you have a 5 second loading screen where it does like a little,
I
where
like how
it
you
does a
say
little,
SSD.
um, does like a little music beats, and then like whatever comes up, and then it's either like a wild animal or no, a wild Pokemon has appeared, or if you got caught out by a trainer randomly, it's like schoolboy Johnny wants to fight, wants to battle. You have to go through all that, but whereas in this, it's just very seamlessly integrated. You walk up to the people you're fighting, and just the music starts, and then you're going right.
Yeah, you don't
It's
teleport to
sick.
some battlefield. Like you don't enter a sub dimension and like
Yeah,
fight
you
there for a
just
second.
fight right there on the world map.
It's really solid. It keeps the flow going really well. It makes the dungeons really fun. And also it gives you the opportunity to heal up. Like that was the thing that I found that was really great was that's what makes this it takes the annoying part of JRPG. People the thing that people find really annoying in JRPGs, which are random battle encounters, and the ability of never knowing if like you should heal right now or what you should do. Like you could be walking through the dungeon and you see the next enemy and you're like, oh, okay, I should probably use a potion before I fight that guy. Then you fight that guy, and it's just really really great in that sense. That was one thing I have here written on my notes as far as game design is the game just truly is finely tuned as far as difficulty goes. We did just recently cover difficulty in games in a recent podcast episode called Difficulty in Games. For those of you that are interested in that sort of thing, definitely check it out. The difficulty in this game was so perfect. Absolutely. Like it was not boring and it was not frustrating. I think it led itself at a perfect pace, which is a lot to ask for in most games. Most developers can't find that middle ground very well. And I think this one is absolutely amazing. It's probably the only JRPG where you don't really need to grind. Like there's a little bit of grinding that you probably can do to make some of this stuff easier, but if you just play the game, like just go through every dungeon, fight every boss, do some of the side quests that you probably want to do anyway. They're pretty much like available to you in a very simple way to do. Like you'll just level at a right pace and then just beat the game and it'll be fine. I respect them so much for figuring that out. It's such a hard thing to do. Uh, yeah, you're muted, Matt. Awkward, dude.
Oh
Muted.
no.
Sorry, what were you saying?
I was just going off what you were saying. It's just a perfect mixture of difficulty and everything else, and it scales very well as the game goes on, and it plays well.
Yeah. One thing I do want to say too is, when it comes to JRPGs, something that always comes up is like something becomes the most powerful attack in the game. I know that Final Fantasy VI is really a victim of this. I haven't played too many Pokemon games to know if this is a problem in them, but what always ends up happening in a lot of RPGs is a certain character has a certain ability that just works in 99% of all cases that you could just use it and kill something pretty quick. In Final Fantasy VI, that's actually a move called Ultima. And it's just you could just spam it with certain characters and just like win most fights. It's like a magic physical attack damage that just destroys everything. And what was cool about Chrono Trigger was there was actually no move like that. I used to think it was Luminaire, which is Chrono's strongest move. It's an AoE lightning based magic attack, does a ton of damage, but if you use it on Lavos, you'll never win because you have to deal physical damage to the monster on the left in order to kill it, and then you have to deal damage to the one on the right as it's trying to res the one on the left. So even that like little thing is like so cool. So such an interesting like thing to implement is one, there's no strongest attack in the game because it's always going to have an inherent weakness if it's a magic attack, and if it's a physical attack, same thing. So the other thing too is some characters, some boss fights, if you dealt damage to a certain like portion of the boss, you get hit with a really powerful counterattack. So some stuff had to be single target. Another like really great decision I think was made to like AoE attacks don't work all the time. Sometimes you have to go for that single target
situations
ability.
where it's like I can't do this or I'm going to heal someone.
Yeah, exactly. And like some games never even implement something as deep as that. And this was like 30 years ago almost that this has been around, and I think it just makes you have to think a little bit more. It's not overly complex. That's kind of what I want to stress too, is it's just complicated enough. It's a great entry level JRPG mechanic,
Kind of want to back up a little bit. That's crazy. This game is just about 24 years old.
24? No, it's almost 30. It's 26, right? It came out in 95. It's 2021, right? 26 years.
About 25 years old.
Oh, okay. You said 20. Okay.
I said 24, I think.
Yeah, but it's 26.
Shit.
It's okay. No, math is hard.
That's just nutty, though. I don't know why in my head I was just telling myself this game's like 15 years old, 10 years old.
Yeah, I know, man.
But it definitely holds up than other old games I've played. Metroid.
Goddamn.
So I'm very, very impressed by the game design. Art style, Lucas.
Yeah, I got a lot for art style. I think so when we talk about old games, and this is something that we try to be very aware of for this pod, is we can't really judge this game too much on like the technical aspects of the art style, right? Like we can't say like, oh, this didn't have like 3D fully rendered 3D cutscenes. Obviously it was not. They did not have the ability to do that back then.
Yeah.
But certain things we like to think about when we're talking about older games in a modern context is one, how well is it doing for its time? Two, like what are the decisions that are being made that are within their totally within their realm of creativity and technical limitations. I think it makes the right choices. I think it does very well. Like honestly, the look that it has is it's lucky to be in that era that it's timeless.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it. Because if you go back to NES games, even if they do have like a great art style or make some really great creative choices or make things work, it doesn't just. It's a little too hard to look at. Like some of those old NES games, Atari games, even it's just like they're not quite at that level of refinement yet. And then you go a few years later where you see the first 3D games on N64, PS1. And it's even hard to look at those sometimes. Like go and look at the first Tomb Raider, and everybody here will know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like the first 3D games were just took a step back in a way from the best 2D games
A little
graphically.
bit, yeah.
And this is
Because it was just
definitely,
so rough around the edges, and yeah.
yeah, this is the finest like graphic style for a 2D game that you could find, where it's that beautiful sprite style. It's pixelated, but it's not too pixelated. Everything's very clear on what you're looking at. They were able to do cutscenes. They were able to have really great music. The memory allowed for it, and even like the character portraits were available. You know, some of those older games, the character portraits were just like nothing. So you were able to actually see like, oh, this is actually what Chrono really does look like. I know you can't really tell because he's a sprite.
Toriyama.
Yeah, but he looks like Goku. Surprise,
Yeah.
surprise. Um, I, I think the animations are really really great. Everything's like just there's so many texts in the game. There's 162 texts in this game, like dual text and triple text in the game. I don't know if
Yeah.
you knew that. Yeah, there's a lot. So they had to animate every single one of those, and each one of them is actually pretty sick. Like it was always really cool to watch.
I really liked Delta Force. Did you use that one at all?
Yeah, Delta Force was sick. That was
Yeah.
was that the Marl Frog Chrono one?
Luca Frog Chrono.
Oh wait, I don't think I used that one.
Yeah, that was like my main one. I'm like, that kind of felt like my OP move, but it wasn't because you just use so much MP.
Yeah, it was
Um,
like was it 20 MP per?
it was like a shit ton, yeah. But it was
Yeah.
really good. It was sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I loved all of the animations on everything. The colors are very vibrant. I think the colors are very vibrant when they need to be, and also very muted and dark when they need to be. Like the fact that they could have something as like cool feeling as like the forest that you go into and like kind of run around in to like Magus's castle. That just shows like so much diversity.
Or to like the year 2300 and all like the like post-apocalyptic world, basically how it's just so dreary. And like we mentioned, like this game, it's like the peak of pixel art, right? And the peak of like 16-bit. And it's beautiful, and kind of the way I personally try and evaluate like the art style in games now, specifically because we can't really fairly compare something that was made in the 90s to something that was made today, is how well is everything, like, are the set pieces designed? How well is everything come together with what they have? And this is one of those games that it all comes together perfectly, like from everything Lucas was mentioning, the animations on the attack using what they have, um, you know, the places you actually get to explore, how those are designed, the tone that is set in those places and that's established is designed so well. Um, and I want to mention too, like, I don't know, I don't think this was included in the original version, to be fair, but like the versions today, the ports to the PC at least, and I'm assuming to
So that,
the iPad device as well, it has a lot of like really cool anime cutscenes in it,
yeah, it does.
and they're super fun and adds a lot, kind of helps bring the world alive. And I'll count that as part of the game, even if it's newer. I think it's sick, so it's
Okay.
all really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, yeah, into that. What was your favorite like dungeon set piece that you encountered?
Ooh.
I really loved everything in like the Zeal, like the underwater palace, the Black Omen and stuff. Like the Zeal architecture was really cool. It felt like futuro, like it felt very futuristic, even though they were supposed to be an ancient civilization. I thought that was really cool. On top of the music was really cool there.
I kind of really liked the. I don't even know if it'd qualify as a dungeon, but this was like my favorite area. It was like Site 32 or something, or like just one of the mutant areas that you wander through in
Yeah,
the post-apocalyptic. That might be a weird one to pick because it's so like kind of dreary and not colorful and stuff. But that's kind of why I loved it, because it was just like it was such an outlier
yeah,
existing in what is otherwise in all the other timelines like a very bright and colorful area.
yeah.
I had a lot of fun with it,
They totally
and
took
the
like
monsters there were so much more kind of like Fallout
different.
esque,
Yeah, they were super
like very
different.
clearly mutants. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
enjoyed
that was
that.
dope. That was dope. They totally took like cues from Terminator or like
Yeah.
any 90s sci-fi like post-apocalyptic stuff like totally
There was one
played
I
with
was
it.
fighting. It was just like a giant deformed baby. I was like, why?
Yeah, I know that one. Yeah, yeah, I know exactly that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with pretty much everything you said. I think the art style is amazing, and really like the art team, like the teams that design like all the animations and sprites for the game, they were all really informed by all the concept art from Akira Toriyama. So Like so much of, although he didn't have as heavy of a hand as most of the dev team, so much of the creative direction for the art comes from Toriyama, which is like just so great. You know, it's probably like I really don't know how many like RPGs or video games in general Akira Toriyama has like done art direction for, but
Yeah.
like I'm just glad that he did one, you know, and it's like one of the greatest, you know, it's supposed to be one of the, it is one of the greatest games of all time, you
I mean,
know.
probably the only other ones really is the like the Dragon Ball games, right? If
Yeah,
he was
yeah,
even involved on those.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. So
Super cool.
So one thing I did want to talk about, and this is a testament to how advanced the game was for the time. When Chrono Trigger was released in 1995, it had a price tag of $80.
No
Yeah,
way.
yeah, it did. It did. Um,
Why?
it
That's absurd back then.
it is absurd. That is $142 in today's dollars.
That's ridiculous. Who was
I don't
buying
know. I
this?
don't know. People bought 142. Imagine buying a $142 game.
I
Um,
think we would have an
it's
anything's possible dedicated just to
I
like shitting on
just
it.
to a game like that. Yeah, I know. I know it's crazy. I mean, this is a pre like like a pre-anime America bought it, it got phenomenal. It shattered expectations. It sold more than they thought it would. It got better ratings than they thought it would and better scores.
That's
But it was
unreal.
$142. And think about what this game that's how much people actually were willing to pay for it because of the way it looked. Like they actually like it was really graphically ahead of its time for the system that it was on. People thought it was worthy of $80 in 1995.
You couldn't get away with that today.
I know, you definitely couldn't, especially because every game is free though. It's a different model now. I think people were. I'm not justifying that high price tag for back then, but I will say that it was probably easier to get someone to buy a piece of media back then than it would be today. People don't buy anything today. People don't buy anything these
I
days.
agree with that, but I mean, even like 5 years ago, the microtransaction model and like the you buy whatever, like Valorant, like you buy skins or League, you buy skins and whatever, right? Like that model wasn't nearly as big as it was, say, even 5 years ago. Um, and I even like 5 or even 10 years ago, I can't. I mean, I can't imagine a 15-year-old me being like, "Fuck, I
I
gotta
gotta
buy
buy
this
that.
140 year
Yeah,
old
I
game,"
know.
right?
I know.
That's
I
kind of
know.
nutty to think about. It's cool. It's sick. Like it's a crazy fact, but I'm very impressed, and it's a testament to how good this game is. I'm very impressed that it did that well
I
considering the
know.
price tag.
I know. And it's crazy how that like I had to kind of dig for that fact. It was kind of buried in a couple of videos that I saw. It's like it's not something that people lead with when they talk about Chrono Trigger. So it actually managed, like if it was a bad game, people would
Would
have
have
been
gotten
like,
destroyed.
yeah, it's a
I would love
$142 bad
to.
game.
I would love to find an old article and just see how game magazines or whatever were reporting on it during that time.
Yeah, I would love to see that too. That would have been a great session here. Um, but yeah, so moving on to sound design.
Yes.
Oh man, sound design. Go. You could start.
I mean, just really, really freaking good music, and even the sound design, like the attacks, is good. But a really good music. I really loved the opening, just music in particular, the opening cinematic when you started the game, and I don't know why I really fucked with the overworld music.
Which one? There was actually a lot.
Particularly the main one that you get when you're in just whatever their land is called in their timeline.
The present,
Um,
yeah, Guardia in present time.
Guardian, I think you get it in the 600 AD as well. I really enjoyed that music. Magus had a dope theme. The Lavos fight music is lit. Scala's theme was really beautiful.
I love
Um,
Scala's
I,
theme.
I, I was I was listening to it a little bit while I was doing my notes for this actually,
It's
and
so good.
I found a funny comment on the YouTube videos that was just saying, "Man, imagine 20 years ago, all these nerds just had to play the game and just have it sit there to keep listening to this on repeat because they didn't have YouTube yet or
Dude,
whatever."
that's so true. It was so
Yeah.
hard to find this stuff back then.
Oh yeah. I mean, it would been so hard. Kind of something we probably take for granted now because I listen to a lot of like random video game and anime music, but and I really liked the. It's kind of interesting. I didn't at first. I was like, "What is this?" But the more I listened to it, I liked it. The music in the old days, the old ages with
Oh,
Ayla,
when it's oh
like at the party.
oh yeah, the
Yeah. I was like, at first I hated it, but the cutscene where they have it in particular, it goes on for a really long time, and I just kept listening to it, and I was
yeah.
just like, That kind of slaps.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It
And
does
then
slap.
I noticed they had it in a festival. I didn't really fully explore the festival area my first time the game started, and they had like a little area dedicated to like celebrating that era of music, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was cool. That was a cool like foreshadow because I
Yeah,
went to that era at the very beginning of the game, and then it shows up later, and you're like, oh dang,
yeah,
like they we remembered the song.
yeah. Sick.
Um, yeah, totally. I love the music in this game for sure. So Yasunori Mitsuda is the legendary composer for the game, and the story is actually that he did nearly all the songs except for a few that are credited to Nobuo Uematsu. Nobuo Uematsu has done much of the Final Fantasy composition, like over pretty much the whole Final Fantasy series. I think he did the very first one, and he just recently stopped, from what I remember, or took a long hiatus because he was actually burnt out from making so much music for Square. But Yosunori Matsuda, the story is that he gave Squaresoft an ultimatum since he was just kind of stuck doing sound design for so long for like random Dragon Quest games that he said he really wanted a shot to fully compose a game. And they like miraculously gave him a shot to do Chrono Trigger, like their brand new big game. And he worked night and day to do the soundtrack, and so much that he actually ended up like suffering from so much stress he developed stomach ulcers
Holy shit.
and had to like take a step down for a second, and then Nobuo Uematsu came in and helped finish out a few songs and like finished out like 5 or 10 tracks for him. But like Mitsuda was so insane. He actually like passed out. He was working so much he would pass out sleeping at his desk while working, and he claims that some songs came to him in the dreams that he had then. Like some songs that like he wrote. I forget which specific songs he cited, but like he said that some of them came to him like literally in a dream. And he also claims that he wrote the Chrono Trigger theme in one sitting, which is
Bullshit.
mind blowing. Yeah, that's what he said, and I was like, I don't know, man. Like that theme is like legendary, iconic, and it's actually really it's big. Like it's just
It's a
so
big
layered.
piece, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can hear it. Like people have obviously done orchestrated arrangements of all of these pieces. And like the Chrono Trigger theme is gigantic. It's like it's a full orchestrated piece.
Yeah.
Like, and he says he did it in one sitting. That dude's a maniac, I guess. But there's a few things I want to call out with the sound design. So the it's not just the greatness of the music itself, but it's certain cues and certain ways that it's used. For instance, Melchior, the guy that repairs the Masamune, he's from Zeal originally, right? And he's just lost in time. And you find him, you bring him the Masamune, and he repairs it for you. And he like his name is on the sword. That's how you find out that you have to take it to him. And you go like one of the characters will go, "Hey, so like why is your name on this sword?" And he says, "Ah, that's a long story. I'll just repair your sword."
Yeah.
He like doesn't
Yeah.
tell you the story. So you don't know at that point that he's from like a completely different time period. You think he just kind of lives there. And when he repairs the sword, the song Corridors of Time plays, which is the theme song for Zeal. Like
Oh.
the music that's playing. So it's actually they actually use the music to foreshadow. It's the first time you hear that song. It's such an iconic song. It's a great one. And it's actually the first time you hear it is when the Masamune is getting repaired, because the Masamune itself is also from Zeal. So it's just an interesting little sound thing there.
That's insane.
Um, also the other thing too is like I just made a couple notes here. When you fight against Lavos' second form, the music actually starts changing and blending into like a synthy feel. Like it starts kind of getting like a little electronic in a sense. And but it still has like the really amazing horns and orchestrated feel from
Right.
like the rest of the songs in the game. And it even has like sound elements from Magus's fight, which is another interesting
Oh,
parallel.
did it? I didn't pick
And
up on
and
that.
and then the final fight with Lavos is like really electronic and synthy. It's like
More
it has this
traditional,
like
I think. Yeah.
yeah, we'll definitely plug it in post production here, but it also has the choir like sounds from the very beginning of the game. So like when you're playing the fight against like Lavos, like when you're playing in that moment, it literally feels like time is like colliding. Like it just feels like you're hearing something from the very beginning of the game and something brand new that you've never heard before. And like you're also flying through time like in the fight itself. So it's just out of control good. Like the
I
sound design is
really,
so good.
I really enjoy when games use the music kind of to influence the story in certain ways and to really impact the player and like give out those emotions. The best example I can think of is when you and I played when we did Journey for the podcast. That music was very much intertwined with that experience. I think it's very much the same thing here in Chrono Trigger as well.
Totally, totally, totally.
Let's see. Up next. Do we want to hear from producer Sam at all, or
Oh, you know what? Okay. The Sam so I got I got the Sam recording here. It's called Sam's monologue. Uh
I checked the soundboard earlier. There's a couple others there that I
yeah,
noticed.
I didn't need to use them, fortunately. Uh, so just as a little background, Duke Sam, producer Sam, genuinely thought that you would give this one a really bad score. Like he was really afraid of that.
Well, we're not there yet, so we'll
So
see.
I guess he did prepare some sound bites just in case that did happen. But he also prepared a soundbite in case you gave it a really
I'm
great
seeing
score.
that.
So
Yeah.
we have both queued up. I'm
We'll
glad
see
that
what
you see,
happens.
I'm glad that you see him there. But we do have Sam's monologue. We're gonna play it for you guys here before we jump into the final NPC awards. Again, he is not currently here. He's in Mykonos, Greece.
Scouting out locations for the Thanks for Playing movie.
That's right. That's right. So here is producer Sam and his thoughts on Chrono Trigger.
Yo, yo, yo. This is Sam, producer Sam of Thanks for Playing. You guys are, probably at the end of the podcast or whatever part of the podcast that you're on, and you're inserting this audio, and you guys are talking about Chrono Trigger, the best game ever made. And Matt, I know you've probably had some ridiculous takes on here. So, yeah, man, whatever you do, don't give this game a 7. This game deserves a 9 or a 10. I mean, even giving it a 9 is crazy in my opinion. So, don't be ass, Matt, and don't say that this game's about nostalgia, because you're going to say that about every game that has
Really going in on you.
come out
I
before
know.
1998.
Is
I
he gonna
guess
talk
every
about
game
Chrono
sucks,
Trigger?
from the 90s, right? Just like Citizen Kane. So, don't get those bad reviews. Don't.
Okay, hang on. I just want to pause for a second. Do you want to talk about the Citizen Kane thing for a sec, or you want to move on?
I mean, I know I don't really remember arguing too passionately about this, but I think Sam just doesn't like me. No, I don't like Citizen Kane. It's a very well-known movie for like film buffs. Very like kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, Luke, is considered to be like one of the best movies of all
It's
time.
considered to be the
pretty
greatest
much.
movie of all time.
I think it's a bad movie. I think it's overrated. It's a whole bunch of buildup for one really okay line at the end. To be fair, I watched it in film class when I was 15 or 16, so I'd probably feel a little bit differently about it now. Maybe worth a rewatch, but did not do anything for me back then.
So that's why Sam said Citizen Kane just now in his monologue. Let's continue.
Don't get yourself in that hole again. Although it might be some good publicity for the pod. So choose wisely. But no, seriously, Chrono Trigger, an amazing game. I love this game so much, and I'm so sad I couldn't be on this episode. And I just want to say that I just want to say a few good things about the game. And I want to say that it's one of the most playable, accessible, well-balanced games ever made. It's just so easy to play through this game and feel like you're going through the storyline, but you're also having a lot of fun with the gameplay. Everything about the game just seems to be very captivating, very interesting, and I think that's why it's really stood the test of time. And yeah,
This is great.
there are not many games that are up to this caliber, and going back and replaying it, it just still blew my mind. I used to rent this game from a local rental store in mine and Lucas's hometown, and I rented it before I could even read. And I think I rented it when I was 4 or 5 when it first came out.
How do you play
Wait,
the
hold
game?
up.
Didn't
Wait,
know
hold
what was
up.
going on. I didn't know how to play the game, but I kept renting it until I think I was 11, and I finally beat it.
Okay, that made sense with my
One of the most
timeline.
satisfying moments of my life. But there was just something about it, even before I knew what the story was about, that drew me in. And it's just such a magnificent, special game. I'm so bummed I missed this episode. But yeah, I just want to say Chrono Trigger, one of the best games ever made, one of the GOATs for sure. It deserves all its praise. It's pretty much like The Godfather or The Godfather 2 of video games is what I would equate it to. Like, if you're saying this game sucks, it's just because you're dumb and you have no taste and no soul. So, yeah. Chrono Trigger, I love you. I know Lucas loves this game. Matt, I hope you love it too. I have no idea what you're saying about it, but I kind of do. So, yeah. Good luck with the rest of the pod. Sam producer, Sam Luna. I'm probably out in Mykonos or Italy playing some Chrono Trigger. Yeah, good luck, boys. Love you.
All right, man, that was awesome. That was very special.
Bro, he like spent
he
half
really
of that
got
was just ripping into me.
yeah. Okay, so before
fuck?
he really assumed that you wouldn't like the game just because the Super Metroid reputation that you garnered. But you know, I think you're really turning it around. Sorry, I didn't know he would shit on you so much. That was are you okay?
It might affect my score.
Oh yeah, oh, please no.
Damn. I'm good.
Okay.
No, that was well you know what? I'm glad I made that much of an impact on Sam.
Okay, great.
And I really enjoyed getting his little thoughts, and the fact that he was playing this game before he could read was, I mean, I don't even know if you were playing it at that point, but I'm glad he was renting it because
Yeah.
he got to read a lot. But
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Moving on to the NPC award. A couple of our final categories: companion piece, pick, favorite moment. NPC award. Who you got?
the golem that was afraid of heights.
I love that. I love that. Oh my god, that's amazing. That's such a
Um,
good pick.
Yeah, for context, there's the golems are like pretty difficult enemies. So one showed up on top when you're like literally on top of a flying aircraft, and I'm thinking, whatever, gotta go through this real quick. It'd be kind of a pain, but whatever. And I'm realizing the golem's not attacking me, and it's just like I'm scared, and it was just literally afraid of heights. And it was so random because unless I missed it, there's not really any other enemies like that just won't fight, barring like one like turtle type rock thing.
Yeah.
There's like no other enemies that really even engage in dialogue with you like that. But this one was just like, other than bosses, but this one was just so like I can't do it.
Yeah.
I was
Runs
just
away.
so it almost took me like it was good, but it almost took me out of I'm like, huh? But I loved that. It was funny as hell.
All right. Yeah, that's a great NPC award actually. Mine is actually going to come from go to Balthazar. Balthazar is the guru of reason from the Kingdom of Zeal. He actually gets lost and sent to the year 2300 during the catastrophe of Lavos. He actually creates your time machine. He creates the Wings of Time before he dies, and then he uploads his brain into a new, which is like those blue creatures that are like big and round, and he delivers his final message. He's the only guru that actually dies. He's one of like the only real character deaths, and his death is like actually very tragic. He basically dies creating a time machine, and he never gets to use it, and like he was forever lost in time basically. Like he got the worst end of the deal because he like was sent to the post-apocalyptic future in this like random lab and just spent the rest of his life creating a machine and then dies before it's ever used. It's like actually very sad. And then the last thing you do is actually he uploads his brain into the new, and then you shut him off at the very, very end, and you basically kill him.
So he can rest.
So he could rest.
He asks you to.
He asked you to do it, and I think that's a really powerful like ending for that guy. Like he doesn't say like kill me please for God's sake. It's more just like, hey, I'm done. Like
Yeah.
I fulfilled my purpose. You could put this thing to sleep now.
Yeah.
And I don't know, thought it was really powerful stuff.
Yep.
Companion piece pick.
When I beat the 2 golems, that was really. Oh, sorry, that was favorite moment. Companion piece, Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Didn't. Oh, dang it! That was mine originally. I did change mine, but I
Really?
like that. Expand on that. Let me hear.
I think it's just a really good adventure. I think Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of the most iconic cartoons in recent time / anime. That's a whole debate in and of itself.
Mhm.
I think it's a remarkable TV show, and very like kind of similar ideas of like adventure. Friends coming together to do something, and I just think if you liked Chrono Trigger, you'll love Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that. Bunch of kids going on an adventure to defeat the evil villain
Yep.
using the power of the elements. Pretty
Yes,
pretty
sir.
on point there. Companion piece pick. Dragon Ball Z.
I was gonna do that actually. So first I had Avengers Endgame actually because time travel.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then I
Dig
was
it.
like, I could do a little better than that. And then I went to Dragon Ball, and now I'm at Avatar.
Okay, yeah. Not a too far of a leap. Dragon Ball
No.
Z. I mean, it's another classic, like, era 90s era thing. Both really designed and directed by Akira Toriyama, or I guess concepted artistically by Akira Toriyama. If I'd be surprised if someone out there has never heard of Dragon Ball Z. So this one should not be like too far off or too big of a surprise. So that's my companion piece pick.
Love it. Favorite moment, Lucas? Go.
Uh, the couple things I got one and I got a runner up. The final battle, is really really amazing. And I think my runner up is gotta be. Oh, God, I got 3 favorite moments. My bad. Okay, actually, favorite moment is where Zeal is destroyed, and it's revealed that Magus is the prophet, and then all 3 of the legendary gurus are sent to their different areas of time, like they get stranded where they go.
Yeah.
That moment is really amazing because there's a big reveal where the prophet turns out to be Magus. Chrono dies, and then all 3 of the sages are sent in throughout their time periods. And like, there's just there's like 3 twists that basically happen all at once. Like, really amazing. My runner up is where you acquire. It's a side quest where you acquire the Green Dream, and you find out like why Luca's mom cannot walk. It's a very, very emotional side quest where basically Luca, as a kid, couldn't stop an accident from happening, and is then filled with regret and trauma. And it's a really, really powerful side quest. Way, way, way deeper than I was expecting. Did not expect to cry when I was playing the game, and I did. So it's really good. What about you?
So mine was beating the golems that I mentioned earlier because that was like when I just felt like, man, I get this game now. I'm smart. And then Chrono dying because I was just like, Nani? Like
Yeah.
it was so just out of left field. I wasn't really ready for it. Um, and kind of the implications too. I'm not totally clear on how the time travel mechanics work here. For what it seems to be implied that it's like one timeline and something multiverse, like Avengers Endgame or even like Dragon Ball is. Um, so I'm not sure if that means the Chrono that they revived. I don't know if that means that that's a brand new Chrono, if that's the same Chrono. I'm really confused on that. So I can't tell if it's implied that their Chrono still actually died, and then they just went and took a new one. Basically, it's kind of hard to tell.
Let's not
Um,
overthink that one.
I know. That's just who I am. But I was like, Nani. Um, but yeah, I enjoyed both those parts quite a bit.
Awesome.
Nitpicks, I'll go because I don't think you have any.
I
Story in the
don't.
beginning and was extremely weak in my opinion, and no real driving forces. Um, and this might have been more of a port issue on the PC, or just a general personal me issue. The invisible barriers. Let me read context. What I found when I was walking, like I'd be next to a rock, but I'd be walking in a space where the rock shouldn't be in my way, but it would be in my way, and I couldn't walk. Like it's like the barrier of it extended, even if it was just like open territory, and it happened enough. It wasn't like a game breaking thing by any means, but it kept recurring and happening enough to where I'm like, this is kind of annoying. Um, I'm not sure if maybe that's a PC port issue or whatever, but yeah, only real nitpicks for me.
Okay. I do just have a real quick nitpick, and it is that story part that you mentioned. It's like the revelation of Lavos and like the whole driving motivation is really weird. Like
Yeah.
I know it eventually like kind of fades into the background of the plot points and just everything that happens. It just kind of ends up feeling like it's naturally what you should be doing. But like when Lavos is revealed and like your characters just decide to go like we're gonna kill Lavos. This is it.
Yeah.
Like we have to. It's like I was like, no, you don't have to. Just
Yeah,
go
like
back
you're
home.
good,
Just
yeah.
go home. But yeah, I do agree with you on that point. It's my only nitpick for it. This question feels weird for this episode, but would you play other games from this developer?
Square Enix, Kingdom Hearts. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's back then. This is SquareSoft. Technically, it's before they
Right.
became
Yeah.
Square Enix, but you know, same company generally. And I mean, I've already played a million games by them, and we've played Kingdom Hearts for the
I
pod.
tell you what, though, I would love to see this game get a remake in the same way Final Fantasy VII did.
That would be pretty cool. I think that's been toyed around with a little bit. There was an attempt at a fan made 3D remake of the game called Chrono Resurrection, and Square Enix gave them a cease and desist and shut it down.
Huh.
Which is pretty sad. But if you go on YouTube and look at some footage, you'll find it. It like legitimately looked pretty cool. Like they recreated it with like new assets and like I think they did some battles and all that stuff. Um, I would love a FF7 remake, but the FF7 remake, like I I want it to be less like I haven't really played the FF7 remake to be perfectly honest. I've just seen like a lot of clips and the voice acting would really be tough to get through. Especially
Yeah.
Chrono's a silent protagonist, so it'd be like a little weird. But
Yeah,
if
that's true.
that would be my only like qualm would be like if it'd be an epic 3D like adventure game, it would have to have
I don't
like
know.
voice
In the
acting.
original Jack and Daxter game, Jack is a totally silent protagonist.
Really?
And that game did well. Yeah, he just got to make sure your character is very expressive, and they have someone that kind of does their talking for them in a way.
Yeah, that's kind of what every other character is in Chrono a little bit.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So final conclusive thoughts on the game. Go ahead, Matt.
For considering it was an older game, I really liked it. Sam, I'm sorry you have such a little opinion of me on this stuff. No, great game. I don't think I'd go out of my way to play it again, personally. Just it's still like I enjoyed it, but not my wheelhouse per se. But I think it's a great game.
Awesome. Yeah, I think for Chrono Trigger, it manages to be everything people love about JRPGs while being really accessible. I think there's a lot of subtle depth to the combat, which we've gone into. Everything is character based and not class based, which I think is a really accessible thing to do for JRPGs. It's a fantastic I think it's an imaginative story, but it's not too convoluted, which I think is really cool. Sometimes these stories get a little convoluted. Kingdom Hearts, for instance, it's like impossible to follow in my head. It doesn't require any grinding. It's less than 20 hours long. That's like a amazing thing to ask for from a JRPG. Has some of the best music ever, but it also has some solid emotional beats. So kind of hits checks all boxes for me. Really, really great video game. Really great RPG. All right. So it's time for the thanks for playing score coming from me and Matt. This is where we give our score out of 10 and we add it up and it becomes a score out of 20, becomes the main review score on all platforms. Matt, get ready to give our score. 3, 2, 1. 10.
9.
Okay. Wow. All right. Hang on. I got a sound queued up for that.
Yo, Matt, hell yeah, brother.
All right. Okay.
If I gave it an 8, what would I have got?
You probably would have still gotten that. We did have producer Sam did record this one,
Matt, your ass.
but we didn't have to use it. You're all good. He told me to use it if you gave it below an 8, but you know you're in the safe zone with the 9, so
Sick. Yeah.
we're all good.
Yeah, I'll go over mine real quick. I was gonna give it an 8 too, but the only reason I was gonna give it an 8 was because it's an older game and that's not my vibe. But I'm trying to review this as objectively as I can, and I think for what it is, it's a very good game. And my nitpicks, like I mentioned, what they are. I mean, story, I can get over that at the end of the day. and the invisible barriers that might have just been a me thing. So it gets a 9 for me.
All right, man. Yeah. I mean, I love this game so much. It's a 10 for me. And the more I learned about its development cycle, its dream team, you know, the heart and soul and the ambition put into the people that made the game, just made me love it even more.
Yeah.
And I'll definitely play it again years from now. For you know, whenever I get around to it again, I recommend that everybody play it at least once. It's not a long game. That's the thing. It's as long as like a lot of like AAA games that people play today, and I think it's as accessible as a lot of those games. It's even playable on like mobile, iPad, iOS, Android,
Yeah, that's how you played it. I thought,
Steam.
yeah.
Yeah, I played it on iPad, and you know, I don't think I lost anything from doing that. And it's even on it's on the DS, little out of date there, but it's everywhere. And I think it's
If you can
just
find a copy.
great.
I actually tried to find a copy for my DS.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money. Yeah. But yeah, I think that is all we got today. Matt, where can the good people out there find us online?
All right, everyone. As always, you can find us online on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. As I mentioned, we are on TikTok again. Go ahead and leave us a follow there. We are really trying to ramp up our posting. So you can find us on all 3 of those social platforms on the handle at TFP Podcasts. That's TFP Podcasts with an S at the end. And you can also shoot us an email if you have any questions, maybe some game recommendations. Let us know what you want to see. Thanks for playing pod@gmail.com. And as always, please follow, subscribe, rate, review wherever you listen to your podcast. Helps us grow, helps us get the good word out there to more wonderful people like yourself. And it helps us, inspiring us to keep the good content going. And if you want to hang out with me, you can follow me on Twitter at GoodIdeaMatthew. I cannot hear you, Lucas.
Bad. Awkward. If you want to hang out with me or message me, you can message me or follow me on Instagram at GoodIdeaLucas. I'm also always on our Discord server, so make sure you go and join our Discord server where we're having constant discussion about Chrono Trigger and the Steam Deck as of recently.
Yes, love it. All right, everyone. This has been. Thanks for playing. Catch you next time. Skip it up.